This is Informer News, your voice of the people. Timeline is Sunday the 6th of December 2015. Welcome along, my friends, to another edition of the Informer News monthly special report. Coming up in this month's broadcast, Whistleblower confirms the timeline for the coming Nibiru event and that an asteroid will impact Earth weeks before the main event. Plus how the United States has been lying to their own people and the world for decades as mounting evidence that the US has a very advanced secret space program and has had bases on the moon and Mars for decades. And many whistleblowers have confirmed this and lost their lives for doing so. Okay, into this month's Informer News special report. This first report is a voice of the people's statements. There is now mounting evidence that the United States has bases on the lunar surface as well as the planet Mars. These images show constructions on the lunar surface with which many whistleblowers have confirmed are US bases, and that the United States has been involved in a secret space program from the 50s. NASA is a joke and is the public arm of the US public space program, a disinformation space program for gullible humans. While all the time the real secret space program has advanced anti-gravity spacecraft that the technology they use is 1,000 years ahead of the public space program. Have you ever asked yourself why the US is still using outdated rocket spacecraft after decades they were first introduced, when technology has advanced to amazing lengths? The truth is your government and leaders have been lying to you all and concealing the real truth for many years, and they are getting away with it. When will you all wake up? The voice of the people. These following extracts confirming the US has a base on the lunar surface and the planet Mars since the 50s originates from authenticmentoring.wordpress.com. How many whistleblowers does it take to expose a secret space program? Richard Dolan, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, William Cooper, Colonel Stephen Wilson. For years, Richard Dolan has allured to the secret space program and breakaway civilization. The granddaughter of former President Dwight D. Eisenhower has been speaking out. Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, ET invasion has already occurred. Long ago in 1989, William Cooper, a US Navy intelligence officer, revealed in his book Behold a Pale Horse and Lectures that the US had first landed on the planet Mars on May 22, 1962. Cooper said by the time the US NASA public space program landed on the moon in 1969, the US already had a base there since the mid-50s. Cooper was killed by police in 2001. Colonel Steve Wilson, USAF, was called the man who outed the US Saucer program in 1997 by Dr. Richard Boylan. Colonel Stephen Wilson's credentials are listed on Dr. Boland's website. He praises him as a courageous soldier patriot and dedicated a short biography in his memory. Colonel Steve Wilson, former director of Project Pounce, wrote revelations concerning Majestic 12, aka Majestic, which allegedly is a group of military scientists, elites, etc., organized by President Truman to manage and oversee the entire UFO subject. Colonel Wilson died shortly after these revelations. Colonel Wilson's revelations in 1997. In 1947, President Truman created the National Security Council, the CIA, the Department of Defense, and ultra-top secret Majestic 12, called the Committee, and it appears a secret space program was born. President Truman on September the 24th, 1947, established Majestic 12, an ultra-top secret research and development intelligence operation called the Committee. President Truman signed the National Security Act of 1947 to reorganize the military and create the National Security Council, NSC, and the CIA, and the amendment of 1949 created the Department of Defense. In 1954, President Eisenhower signed the Secret Executive Order, Order number 5412, which set up the committee inside the NSC. The NSC called this group the 5412 Committee, which gave President Eisenhower responsibility of approving all black covert projects. However, Eisenhower lost control of the elite committee. This committee has undergone several changes over the years, and since then has been called the Special Committee, the 303 Committee, and currently the 40 Committee. It is described as the Directorate of the NSC. The 40 Committee, PI-40, has access to advanced technology and teams to cover up the cover-ups. In the past, this committee was headed by Dr. Henry Kissinger, codenamed the Overseer. Read Truman's letter authorizing creation of Majestic 12. Dick Cheney connected to Mars colony. Bush Cheney. Richard B. Cheney started in the Nixon and Ford White House 1969 to 77, became Secretary of Defense to George H.W. Bush 1989 to 1993, and eventually became Vice President during the George W. Bush administration 2001 to 2009. In the latest unfolding of the Mars drama memo, it is now rumored that Cheney ran the secret Mars Colony Corporation, which the US Mars Defense Force was deployed on Mars to defend. These following extracts also confirm that the US has bases on Mars. Originates from UFOdigest.com, titled Navy Intelligence Officer Corroborates US Mars Bases and Time Travel by Alfred Libremont Weber. U.S. Naval Intelligence Officer Milton William Cooper, 1943 to 2001. 1989 lecture and affidavit by Naval Intelligence Officer Milton William Cooper corroborates the U.S. Mars bases and time travel accounts of DAPRA whistleblower Basiago, CIA whistleblower Mendez and Stillings, by Alfred Libremont Weber. Vancouver, BC, the transcript of a November the 17th, 1989 public lecture and affidavit dated January the 10th, 1989 by former U.S. Naval Intelligence Officer Milton William Cooper, 1943 to 2001, corroborates key aspects of accounts made by DAPRA whistleblower Andrew D. Basiago and CIA whistleblower Bernard Mendez and William Stillings regarding U.S. secret bases on Mars and secret U.S. government time travel capabilities. U.S. bases on Mars. Cooper, the first Mars landing was May the 22nd, 1962, or excuse me, that was the first landing on Mars. I'm sorry, May the 22nd, 1962 was the winged probe that used a hydrazine propeller, flew around approximately 3 orbits and landed on May the 22nd, 1962, was a joint United States-Russia endeavor. The first time that we landed on the moon was sometime during the probably mid-50s, because at the time when President Kennedy stated that he wanted a man to set foot on the moon by the end of the decade, we already had a base there. What about Mars? Came another quick question. We have a base on Mars also, Cooper calmly replied. When did that happen? I don't know the exact date, but I know the project's name. It was Adam and Eve. How long have you known about this? Well, I revealed it publicly for the first time on July the 2nd, 1989, and within 3 weeks of the time I revealed it publicly, the government, to get the American people not to listen to me, came out and said that they planned to build a base on the moon and a colony on Mars. Now, 3 days previous to my speech, representative from NASA said we can never have a colony on Mars. It's impossible that there's a colony on Mars because Mars is a dead planet, and it's not a dead planet. They've lied to you all about Mars. US bases on Mars: Whistleblower, Barciago, Mendez, Stillings, Ralph, Newman. The information as to US bases on Mars contained in the 1989 public lecture, an affidavit of US Naval Intelligence Officer Milton William Cooper, is consistent, congruent, corroborative of at least 5 independent whistleblowers from US secret compartmentalized programs in the US time travel program whom this reporter has interviewed. These include DAPRA whistleblower Andrew D. Barciago, CIA whistleblower William Stillings and Bernard Mendez, and US Department of Defense whistleblowers Michael Ralph and Arthur Newman. US bases on Mars: US DoD whistleblower Arthur Newman and Michael Ralph. As this report has published, US DoD whistleblower Arthur Newman, who until recently referred to himself as Henry Deacon, was formerly associated with that US government agency. On July the 25th, 2009, at the European Exopolitics Congress in Barcelona, Spain, Mr. Newman publicly stated, "There is life on Mars. There are bases on Mars. I have been there." The following day, Mr. Newman participated in Future Talk, a Project Camelot documentary interview in which he provided details of his teleporting to a base on Mars and participating in a 1-hour project meeting, which was also attended by representatives of an intelligence civilization that lives in cities under the surface of Mars. Mars colony eyewitness Michael Ralph is a whistleblower and a former member of the US Armed Forces who in 1976 was recruited as a permanent member of the secret Mars colony. In 1976 Earth time, he teleported to the Mars colony and spent 20 years as a permanent member of its staff. In 1996 Mars time, Mr. Ralph was time travelled via teleportation and age regressed 20 years, landing back at a US military base in 1976 Earth time. Mr. Ralph then served 6 years in the US military on Earth before being honorably discharged in 1982. In a 2-volume book authorized by his wife, Stephanie Ralph, BSC, The Mars Records, Mr. Ralph described the 2 types of individuals at the secret Mars colony. To clarify, remember there are 2 kinds of people that I remember. 1. People visiting Mars, temporarily, politicians, etc. They travel to and from Mars by jump gate. They visit for a few weeks and return. They are not time travel back. They are VIPs. They're off limits. 2. Permanent staff. They spend 20 years in duty cycle. At the end of the duty cycle, they are age regressed and time shot back to their space-time origin point. They are sent back with memories blocked. They are sent back to complete their destiny on Earth. Coming up next, information that has been passed on to the voice of the people that could be of fundamental importance for every man, woman and child on this planet. This following information originates from a person using the disguised name of Sin Raven. He claims this information came from a person who works in a very important, authoritative place and could have been briefed and informed of top secret information that is withheld from the people regarding global events. I could give you more information of who this person is, but to do so could put this person's life in danger. The Voice of the People is categorizing this information a red alert warning with a word of caution that it could be another piece of disinformation that the elite have ordered their trolls to post to distract from the real timeline for this event. Okay, the Voice of the People has compiled the following information from info passed on by the source. By Christmas, everybody will see the red dwarf in the sky. The closest passage to Earth will occur on the 26th of March 2016. But a few weeks before this event, the Earth will be impacted by a large asteroid. The location of the expected impact will be north of Puerto Rico, and the name of this asteroid is Apophis. At this stage, the Voice of the People put a question to the source. According to NASA, Apophis could pose a threat to Earth at its closest passage to our planet on the 13th of April 2029. So have you made a mistake in the name and timeline of this threat to our planet? The source replied, that is what NASA claimed, and the Discovery, History Channel and Space.com stated NASA is military controlled and has been from the start. So the Voice of the People then asked, please give me further information of what you know about Apophis. It is 2 kilometers in diameter, dubbed the Red Meteor by the Palladian race, who have been in contact with Billy Myers for years. They are otherwise known as the Tall Whites or Nordics. Hospitals in San Pablo have been receiving body bags and plastic coffins for the last year or so, and military MRE food packs, same with FEMA Region 3. So then the Voice of the People asked, what's the timeline for this event and the probability of its impacting Earth? The source stated, February, 3 weeks in. Nibiru's influence will change the outcome, the source stated. I'm trying to get exact details from my contact. Someone's in the know, has the exact date, but we do know where the impact will be, north of Puerto Rico, ocean hit. The source stated, come Christmas, the red dwarf will be visible to all, and they are going to try and spin a story of Betelgeuse going supernova. That's their cover story. They have that story ready to hit the media as soon as they can no longer hide it from us. Lying to the last, but here's the big clue. Watch for private and corp jets landing at Denver Airport. This following information was also passed on to the Voice of the People by the same source. That gives some incredible insight of how Nibiru's closest passage will affect Earth. The timeline he stated for the passing will be on the 26th of March 2016. East Coast splits in two, going from the Gulf up to the Great Lakes, which will merge into one. West Coast fires Vancouver Island will be thrusted upwards and 100 miles north up to the coast. Europe, India West Coast will submerge as the plate will subduct underneath Africa. Africa mostly safe, but due to high winds and debris impact fires. Same for the US, fires, debris impacts. Dams will break, volcano activity worldwide. Yellowstone will erupt and the Juan de Fuca plate along with San Andreas will be unzipped again like it did over 300 years ago. BC is laden with dormant volcanoes linked to the big white silver star, Mount Washington. And Mount Green, Vancouver Island, was formed volcanically. It sits on the eastern edge of the Juan de Fuca plate. So much will go wrong, but this planet needs to heal itself. She is in pain. A lot of pain. Sin Raven. That information was compiled by the Voice of the People from information passed on by Sin Raven, the Voice of the People. Okay, you're all invited to join this channel by subscribing to End Times 23, which is a totally free subscription service. You're also invited to add me as a friend on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and join my Google Plus timeline. All this month's news links can be found on my website endtimes23.com. There's a live link near the end of this video. Well, that's your lot for this month's Informer News special report. I'll be back with you in a month's time. So until then, this is your Informer signing off. Friends, I'll see you on the flip side. Many whistleblowers have confirmed this and lost their lives for doing so. Okay, into this month's Informer News special report. This first report is a voice of the people's statements. There is now mounting evidence that the United States has bases on the lunar surface as well as the planet Mars. These images show constructions on the lunar surface, with which many whistleblowers have confirmed are US bases, and that the United States has been involved in a scene. Welcome along, my friends, to another edition of the Informer News monthly special report. Coming up in this month's broadcast, Whistleblower confirms the timeline for the coming Nibiru event, and that an asteroid will impact Earth weeks before the main event. Plus how the United States has been lying to their own people and the world for decades, as mounting evidence that the US has a very advanced secret space program and has had bases on the moon and Mars for decades, and secret space program from the 50s. NASA is a joke and is the public arm of the US public space program, a disinformation space program for gullible humans. While all the time the real secret space program has advanced anti-gravity spacecraft, that the technology they use is 1,000 years ahead of the public space program. Have you ever asked yourself why the US is still using outdated rocket spacecraft after decades they were first introduced, when technology has advanced to amazing lengths? The truth is, your government and leaders have been lying to you all and concealing the real truth for many years, and they are getting away with it. When will you all wake up? The voice of the people. These following extracts confirming the US has a base on the lunar surface and the planet Mars since the 50s originates from authenticmentoring.wordpress.com. How many whistleblowers does it take? This is Informer News, your voice of the people. Timeline is Sunday the 6th of December 2015.